Hey kids, welcome to the Lucid Air Grand Touring on a lovely post-rain canyon day. In this video, Zach Clapman and myself will answer 3 very important questions. Number 1, what is a Grand Touring and why is it both slower and more expensive than the dream version we already drove? Number 2, who should be buying a Lucid versus a Tesla, a Mercedes, or a BMW? And conversely, who should probably not be buying a Lucid versus a Mercedes, Tesla, or BMW? And number 3, is this car, this very car, which is a production line vehicle, better, worse, or same as the very early pre-production car that we drove almost a year ago?
Yep, you can watch that video. The link's in the description. But that was an early pre-pro car.
Yes.
It had some good things and some little things we asked about. And they said, oh, no, it's a pre-pro car. So
yeah.
Has this fixed all of those things?
And in fact, I took another pre-pro car. It may have even been the same one. They called the Golden Goose. It was a very high mileage Dream Edition performance that I took on a 1,000-mile road trip to see Pearl Jam in Phoenix and back. And on that trip, I experienced a few things which I will incorporate into this video. So, boilerplate items. The Grand Touring Performance is 1,050 horsepower. That's 61 horsepower down from the Dream Edition, but 231 horsepower more than the regular Grand Touring without the performance option. Okay, it has 921 pound-feet of torque, which is 94 down from the Dream, but 36 more than the non-performance Grand Touring. Lucid says 0 to 60 in 2.6 seconds, 168 miles an hour, and high 9s in the quarter mile for this Grand Touring Performance. The quoted range is 446 miles, which is 6 less than the Dream and 70 less than the regular Grand Touring.
And then they also have the range, which you can get.
Yes, which was 521 miles,
yeah.
The range edition. This car is $180,000, which is $10,000 more than the Dream for less performance. This one has the new Stealth exterior package, which looks nice. It now has Sirius XM streaming, not satellite. It has some changes to the human-machine interface that have been noted from customer feedback from the first year, and it has new aerodynamic wheels that are unique to the GT. So, Zach, shall we?
We shall. I will use one of the only hard controls attached to the wheel to select
the
drive.
shifter. The gear
Flip-a-roon.
it's not a gear selector. It's really just a, I mean, I guess it is. It's forward, neutral, reverse, park, but there's only one gear.
Yeah.
What mode should we be in? This is smooth mode.
Smooth mode.
The efficient mode, the low power mode. Should we go to sprint mode?
Sure, let's just go full kill right away.
Okay, full kill.
And let's go from 0. Head on the headrest, very
yep.
important.
Go.
Wheel spin, very small amount. And then 60.
Are you guys tired of ads? Tired of YouTube ads? Tired of product placements? Tired of pop-ups? We hear you. That's why we've created our new Patreon Champions tier. Maybe you've heard of the fact that we've got a podcast called the Smoking Tire Podcast, and we have a Patreon over there that allows you to get early access to the show and listen ad-free. Well, we've just added an ad-free tier for the One Takes reviews and comparisons without ads of any kind. That means no YouTube ads. That means me doing promos, and you can watch or listen to hundreds of our podcast episodes ad-free as well. It's the new Patreon Champions tier. All you got to do is hit the link in the video description or go to patreon.com/the Smoking Tire Podcast, and you can get Smoking Tire totally ad-free.
It's really quick.
Ridiculous.
Now the throttle is a lot more touchy now that we're in sprint mode. In smooth, it's very quick, but it cruises. It's a little bit more gentle. You know, the throttle input gives you a little bit more room before it goes too fast. But now it's that sport throttle we all are used to.
Right. 3 different drive modes. And I found on my road trip, 1,000-mile road trip, as well as in using because I had that dream car for 2 weeks. So I never once took it out of smooth mode. You still get full power. It's just how it's delivered.
Right.
There's very little reason other than the scare your friends or pull out a stopwatch. There's not a real reason to use the other two modes.
Yeah, because the driving interaction with smooth mode is really wonderful. I mean, the steering doesn't really change. The regen braking, I think, is really well programmed and really well timed. It's aggressive enough without, slamming your head forward. I mean, you could set it to high, but normal is really, really well done.
The high regen is very aggressive, and if you're going really fast, that might be a good idea. Or if you really never want to touch the brake pedal ever, sure. But I think it's a little too aggressive, so I like the normal regen. I think that's the most natural feeling. One thing about the range versus the power, I met Peter Rawlinson, CEO of Lucid, and he said something that it does seem like, in hindsight, like kind of common sense, but I hadn't really thought about it before. Unlike a gas car, huge horsepower numbers are a function of range and are not opposed to range. So if you were thinking, well, this thing could probably go 1,000 miles if you put smaller motors in it, it doesn't really work like that. Current is current, and a bigger motor allows you to flow more current. A bigger battery allows you to flow more current, but it doesn't take more energy to move it to move the larger motor, right? And it's also not much more cost. To build a Bugatti's W16 versus a Golf's 2-liter 4-cylinder is more expensive. It's less efficient to run it all the time, right? And so you're always going to be less efficient.
Right. Well, like something that comes up with GT500 or supercharged cars is the amount of horsepower it takes just to run the supercharger.
Right.
Whereas we don't really have that. I mean, there is a certain amount of energy you need to move this motor.
Right.
But it's probably a far more efficient system. Not to mention that Lucid's motors are some of the most efficient, I think, on the market today in terms of size and efficiency.
And so if to get like a 300 horsepower motor versus an 800 horsepower motor, it's only a few $100 difference. So at this price point, you might as well, big number. At this price point, you might as well just get the bigger motor, get the marketing value, get the numbers, because it also doesn't take away from your efficiency.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible stuff.
Yeah.
Gotta say, it's very quiet in here. I mean, this thing, it looks slippery from the outside. It does a pretty good job of minimizing wind noise and road noise. I think if this had Michelin's, I believe this has Pirelli's, it would be a little quieter. The only real sound is the tire rolling on the tarmac, but there's not a lot of wind noise.
This is kind of a loud road also, so this is louder than normal, but the Mercedes EQE AMG I just drove had the Michelin Pilot Sport EV, which is the best EV tire I've driven on. Shocking, I know. This car is without air suspension. It has, adjustable damping in the shocks, but it's a fixed suspension, and it's really of the school of Lotus, right? Like, like you can't change the settings very much, but I'm not sure I'd want to.
No, I mean, the ride is really good around town.
Yeah.
Like, really, really incredibly smooth without floating too much where I feel like disconnected from the controls. But then when we get into the twisty stuff, and the last car we tested, we were on a tighter road. I mean, it just sets in a corner. You can feel what's going on, and it somehow soaks up these bumps without leaning over too far. And I don't believe it has the 48-volt anti-sway bars. Do you know?
No.
I mean, it wasn't in any of the press stuff.
No, it has regular.
I will check and put the answer here.
As far as I know, it's got regular.
It's a great ride, and the handling and agility is also really good. Really rare combination.
You can tell their chassis guy came from Lotus because he did. Like this is how Lotus would do an electric car. Like it tracks with that ethos. The general feel, the vibe of the car is so pleasant. It's such a nice place to spend your time. From the comfort, the airy cabin, the controls, the layout. I did 1,000 miles in this thing, and it all made sense for that.
It does. It feels like a spa, and it feels really nice. The materials in here are really nice, high quality stuff.
Yeah.
The design of it is beautiful. I mean, it looks like a very upscale car, whereas like the Model S is very fast and stuff. It's old, but like even when it was new, the design was so simple because that was cheaper to produce. It never looked that fancy.
This feels French inspired. We said it in our previous video, but if you showed me a photo of this and said, this is the new Citroen EV, I would go, well, yes, of course it is.
Of course it is.
It looks like that. Let me have it.
Switcheroo. The seat is weird. As you go forward, it leans forward. Like as you slide the seat forward, it then starts to lean, which I don't want.
All right, well, I want to do launch myself. And this is a good place for it. Hold on to your butts. And go.
More grip here. Yep, there we go.
I like the nods to California. When you hit launch mode, a bear shows up.
Oh, and there's a bear on the side of the seats, too.
Yeah, and there's lots of nods to California in this car.
Little Easter eggs.
Yeah.
So as the sun rises, the glass roof, which is so beautiful and provides so much wonderful light, you know, in the heat of summer is a bit of a problem. It does heat up in here quite a bit. And that's true of any car that has a panoramic glass roof.
So there are a couple of problems. One, the proximity locking, unlocking, starting, and stopping is not good.
No.
It's not a me problem. It's not that I don't trust it. Like, there's a problem with trust, right? You have to be okay getting out of your car while it's still on with music playing, walking away, and assuming that it will shut off and lock. And I would believe that it would do that if, when I walked back up to it, it unlocked predictably every time, which it does not do.
Right. And then while we were shooting the beauty shots, and we'll drop a clip in, I was standing 15 feet away from the car. I had the fob in my pocket. You were filming the close-up beauties with your phone.
Yeah.
And the car continued to lock and unlock. I at one point, put my hands up.
Why is it doing that?
I'm not touching the key. It's in my pocket, but I haven't touched it. I did not touch anything. I never moved.
Yeah.
And it would change whether it was locking or unlocking as you moved around it.
Look, it just opened again. You're still over there.
Still over here.
Haven't moved.
Haven't touched the key because there's no buttons on the key to touch.
Look, what are you doing?
Officer, I haven't moved. I'm not moving.
This
I'm not moving. Which is really weird.
When we went to the Pearl Jam show, I tailgated out of the Lucid a little bit and hovered around the car with the key in my pocket for like an hour, and it would lock, unlock, on, off 50 times. It's just like, there's luxury and then there's just tech for gadget's sake.
Right.
And a start button, power on, power off, and then lock, unlock on a fob. Other companies sell cars for a lot more money than this with start buttons and fobs, and it doesn't instill more trust to get rid of that when your system isn't predictable.
Yeah, if it's not perfect and predictable, then it actually is a bit of an inconvenience. And we did learn that you can press the center of the fob and it does lock the car, but it's the fact that it was then unlocking and relocking as we moved around, that inconsistency. It doesn't matter if it has a button that works.
Wow.
It's so fast.
That was an enormous number.
And it's so quiet and so smooth, and it soaks up the road so well that you don't really notice how fast you're going until you look at the numbers.
So, while yes, it is possible to get a 440-mile range out of this car, you would have to drive in a manner that is not befitting a $180,000 car. What that number really means in the real world is that you can go 300 miles at 90 miles an hour.
With the AC on, because you did that drive to a warm climate with AC on.
Like my Mach-E will go 300 miles at 71 miles an hour, right? But if I go 80 or 85, that range drops to like 240 or 250. This I can go from LA to San Francisco, LA to Vegas, on one charge at the kind of speeds that people do on the 5 freeway, which is 80, 90, 100 miles an hour. Like, that is actually a good use of, like, I think you and I are in agreement that plug-in hybrids are more useful for everybody.
Yep.
In terms of long road trips. But if you're going to have an EV on a road trip, you don't want to have to go super slow just to avoid the public charging network.
Well, that's one of the benefits of, if the EPA advertised or approved range is 450, we know we can go 400 or 350, using it normally, because some of those tests are so strict in the speed and in the location, and and it has to be a flat road, etc., etc.
Right.
So that's not always real world range, and it's true with miles per gallon as well.
Yeah, of course, but range, because charging is less ubiquitous than gas, and because it takes so long, and because it's less predictable on the public charging networks, being able to predictably know, okay, if I leave my house and I drive the speed I would be driving anyway, I can get to San Francisco or I can get to Vegas. I can do that 300-mile drive at an appropriate pace that befits a 1,000 horsepower, super luxury saloon. Wow.
Yeah.
This thing is so fast.
It's very fast.
I will say that there is, without a stopwatch, zero difference between the performance of this and the Dream.
We also discovered a different problem on the way up here, which is that we could not disable the lane keeping assist. Even when we found the switch for it and turned it off, on the highway there was a little light illuminating off and on the dash panel that was the steering wheel. So I was going straight, and if I moved the wheel, it would disable that thing, and then I had control. But if I waited 2 seconds and held it steady, that thing would illuminate again, and then it was kind of taking control of the wheel. And one, that's annoying. We couldn't disable it manually, and there's no hard button. But also, when we tried to use the radar lane keep assist cruise control, it was not good. We were next to a very well lit lane marker that was white, red, yellow, and it almost drove over it.
Now, I'm going to just pull up my phone and get a video of this so you know what I'm talking about. Here we have another issue. These startup companies, which is Rivian, Tesla, and Lucid, none of them have satellite connectivity. They all rely on cell phones. We are only maybe 10 miles from a highway right now. We do not have cell phone connectivity.
Right.
So Lucid made a big deal out of saying, well, this car finally has Sirius XM. Well, that's nice, but it's not satellite based. It's based on their streaming app. So here we are, a place I would be using satellite radio normally because I can see the sky. and it says...
There's the satellite.
It says internet signal lost, and I cannot connect to Sirius XM. So that is not different from having the Sirius XM app on my phone and streaming it through Bluetooth.
Right.
So it's something they can brag about, but it's not really the same.
We've also had...
Same thing with GPS.
Bluetooth issues where I got in the car and it said no Bluetooth device connected, but when I went to the phone list, my phone was connected.
Yeah.
And then there's this weird thing with the double screens, which seem cool and handy. We have 2 nav screens right now. But as we discovered, if we want to change our music, both screens change. The lower screen, which could stay on nav, for some reason changes to this main vehicle screen.
Yeah.
So then what's the point of having 2 screens?
You can't put it back on the map while you're playing with your music up here. So why have this split screen where you can move things between the screens if you can't have one on the nav and one on the... So
hopefully something they can fix with an over-the-air update, a programming thing, but right now that doesn't make any sense.
Right. So to go back to our 3 questions. Why is the Grand Touring more expensive and slower than the Dream? Well, the Dream was only 520 units. They're all gone. So this is now the top one.
This is like the Dream
until
now.
The Sapphire comes out in 3 or 4 months, which will be even faster.
Yeah.
So they cut a price break for their early adopters with the Dream. That's how they position it.
Well, they
I
also
position it as they raised the price because they could.
Well, the CEO also told Reuters last year that they were going to have to raise prices because of supply chain and inflation.
Yeah.
But that anyone that had a reservation would keep their price, so that might also contribute to the price increase.
Right. So this is now the nicest one you can get for the time being, the highest performing one, etc. Who should buy this versus a Tesla or BMW or Mercedes?
I mean, early adopters, people that want a fifth car. I feel like this is bought by people that buy Alpinas or Alphas. Like, they want to be different than the people that have a Model S and stuff, but also you need to have, I think, frankly, enough money where the inconveniences of a new company or the inconsistent charging network of Charge America and all those isn't a problem for your life.
Yeah. I mean, if you've got a $180,000 car, you probably have a home to charge it at, probably.
Yeah.
And if you are charging this at home with this much battery and range, using the public charging network is going to be irregular, you know. So I would agree with you. Design forward people, early adopters, someone who does want something that is very fast, comfortable, spacious, but is willing to put up with the potential inconveniences of a startup company versus the dependability of a Mercedes or a BMW or something with an established dealer network, an established user interface kind of setup that won't be, let's call it, quirky.
Yeah.
I will say, this is my second favorite driving EV. Taycan is still the top, followed by this. I really like the driving dynamics of this car. On the highway, on the back roads, around town, it really is intuitive with how it drives.
Yeah, I completely agree.
And that I really like. Now, is this Grand Touring improved from the pre-production model that we drove?
From my memory, not really. Like, there was a panel gap on the trunk we noticed on the pre-pro car, and they said, well, it's a pre-pro car, and cut to the shot now, like, it's still quite large. It's a complex system. Making it fit isn't great. And, it still has these weird computer issues, and the radar cruise and the lane guidance isn't that great. So
yeah, I agree. I think it is only marginally improved from the pre-production one that I drove. The computers go faster.
Okay.
They start up faster. They respond faster. That is definitely improved. The responsiveness of the touchscreen definitely improved. 100%, no question. And I did have some charging connectivity issues with that early car. Have not experienced that with this car. Build quality seems kind of the same. Weird connectivity with the phone, kind of the same. The issue with the locking and unlocking, exactly the same. But I do see a lot of promise with these cars. They're really fun. They're really nice. People react to them very positively on the street. When they see them, people are checking them out. People are really
they're wowed
interested.
by it.
And as an alternative to, the legacy automakers, and also to Tesla, who has made a whole bunch of terrible decisions recently, and continues to not really show signs of improvement. This is a really, really pleasing option, especially if you want to drive yourself.
Yeah, and this has a really advanced technology system in terms of the motor, the size, the power. Like, it's almost like they have the powertrain is right, dynamically it's right, and the design and the materials are really nice. It's just like the fitment and some of the other little nuances they need to improve
stuff.
on. Yeah.
Hard stuff. Well, thanks to Lucid for letting us have a go for a week. We appreciate it. Thanks to you guys for watching, and we will see you later.
And remember, always fight your tickets. Use code TST10 on the Off the Record app, available in the Android and iOS store, or go to offtherecord.com/TST.